So yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for sticking around and seeing my non-existent talk according to the schedule. I was added a little late via Twitter, so it's appropriate that I'm talking about social networks. And I just want to point out that I love the structure of this symposium so far, where there's so much discussion back and forth. It's almost as if we have our own little social network within the room right here. So it works well. So by day, I'm a taxonomist. By night, I blog and go on Twitter. Well, I go on Twitter a lot during the day too. But anyways, so I'm just trying to shed some light that social networks and social media are not just for the 16-year-old girls that hang out online that everybody thinks it's for, but actually can be of use for entomologists for not only doing their research, but also disseminating their research as well. So as we've heard, insect taxonomists especially, and some insect researchers in general, seem to have the impression that we all hide in collections somewhere. We don't come out very often. We only like to deal with our specimens and not people. And although I do know a couple of taxonomists that this cliche kind of fits, the majority of us are out here at meetings talking to one another, and we all like to talk to people, especially about our own research. So the idea of somebody hidden behind their specimens is pretty false. And we can get this message out a little bit more by using social media. So this past spring, a study found that about 50% of adults are currently using social media, so Facebook, YouTube, any of the social networks online. And in fact, 80% of college faculty are using the social media as well. So even though we don't generally talk about it and there's a bit of a stigma, most of us are actually doing it just in the dark. So of course the big one that most people use, in fact almost 1 in 10 people on Earth are using, is Facebook. So since there's so much interplay back and forth, who's on Facebook in this room? Hey, you beat the 80%. Wow. I think you guys are 100%. That's awesome. All right, so I guess we're skewing the numbers a little bit, but Facebook. So we all know you can talk to your Aunt Mildred about your research, and you don't have to bring that up at the awkward family reunion every 2 years. But you can also interact and network with your peers. And that can be extremely valuable, especially if you're on a research trip in the middle of nowhere. You get stuck with an export permit that says you have to have everything identified before you can leave with it. And you come back, you put your stuff, all your photos on Facebook, and you end up getting it all identified in time to leave, and you don't have to leave anything behind, which the Smithsonian group ran into last year in Guyana. Another one that is a little more research-based is Mendeley. So essentially, it was originally conceived as a reference management, online reference manager, but it's also got a social network sort of tied into it, sort of like LinkedIn, where you can associate with your colleagues, you can share your CV, and you can actually share your papers that you've published. What it's also got, because everybody's on there and they're using the shared database of papers, is you can actually check to see who's reading your papers. And so these are 2 papers that I've published in the last couple of months. And sure, they're not huge readerships, because who needs Fruit Flies of Ontario or PCR Partners for Flies? We're a small enough group as it is. But anyways, it's interesting to see that despite having only 1 million people online, 3 of them are reading my paper on Fruit Flies of Ontario. None of those people are from Ontario. We've got a student, a researcher, and a professor from, all of them are from Europe. And there's also 4 people, including one of those is me, looking at or interested in PCR Partners for Diptera. Again, there's an extra student, there's a researcher and a professor in the United States and the United Kingdom and Canada. So you can actually get some feedback on who's reading your papers, where they're going to, and who's interested in your work. Not to mention sharing your research and promoting it. So Foursquare is one that not many people really use. It was originally developed for pretty much the hip people in big cities, so they could find out where their friends were drinking at bars and eating at restaurants. So essentially what it does is you tell the program where you are, it points out where your friends are nearby and who's doing what. So it's pretty much a geography-based system. So how can that be used for entomology? Well, if you've got an entomological collection, we all know that nobody really appreciates them outside of us. Why don't you promote it on here so you can actually make yourself known to the general public by making a spot that people can check in at and promoting it. So here you see I've put our insect collection in, the University of Guelph insect collection, a little bit of information, and then promoting, hopefully, people, if they're nearby, maybe I'll stop in and say hi, see what they're doing. The other thing, which I haven't been able to do yet because I haven't had a lot of field time, because it's based on geography, what if you go into a national park, a park down the street, you see an insect, you take a photo of it, and you upload it, and you say, well, this is pretty cool. I was at this park. You can tell exactly where it was. You can tell people exactly which park you're in. I saw this insect here. You might also tell people tips about, oh, there's a pretty good spot at the back. There's a nice lake where you can find some stuff. It's kind of hidden, but you can go to the back. So this is essentially a way for insect collectors to disseminate ideas on where local places to hit up. So if you're traveling somewhere, so if I'm in Reno, somebody's gone to a local place, I can go find that online, and now I don't have to waste half an hour searching Google Maps. I can just go here and say, oh, 20 minutes down the road, there's a great place to go pick up some insects. A lot of people use Flickr, and Flickr is essentially just insect photos, is what we're looking at. But what do those insect photos represent? Well, essentially, they're turning into a giant insect collection online that you can use at any time, and you can data mine. A recent check, I just checked the other day for insects, just searching tag for insects, and 1.6 million photos came up, and then 350,000 of them have got GPS data attached to them. So that's bigger than most university collections, a lot of insect collections. Totally online, you can access it from wherever you are and use it and see what kind of information you can pull from it. Look for, I was on here the other day researching this talk, and I found some guy who posted a fly, a picture of a micropesid fly from Malaysia. I had no idea what it was. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I could see that it was something different and interesting, and so I bookmarked it, and I'm going to go back to it later when I have more time. But, you can see that there's all sorts of interesting things. Of course, there's also things for afterwards. When you get your paper published, we all like to go out and have a beer. So why not use it Untapped, which is just a way to meet up with other beer drinkers and share beer ideas. So these are a couple of the little ones, but I'm going to talk about the two big ones that are in my mind. That's Twitter and blogging. So we're all familiar with Twitter. Who's on Twitter? Oh, that's more than I was expecting. That's awesome. I think I've been interacting with a couple of you anyways. So Twitter is essentially just a giant conversation, but it's got the misconception that it's only for following celebrities. Turns out following celebrities can actually be kind of interesting, especially when they start naming insects for British museums and British natural history places. So this is Simon Pegg, Shaun of the Dead. He was in Star Trek. Anyways, he was asked by a butterfly house in England to name one of their recently born stick insects. He's like, all right, that's cool. So he wrote back, is it a boy or a girl? It's a girl. All right, we're going to call it Ruth Bugs. And so they named an insect via Twitter in Great Britain. So even though it is a lot of celebrity stuff, but the real power of Twitter, I find, is the hashtag. So the hashtag is just a simple search term that works into the Twitter mainframe. And it helps you access information more directly. You don't have to do a lot of Google searches and whatever. You can just follow these tags. Just an easy one to follow is icon has PDF, grammatically horrible, but it's a big time saver. So what this is essentially doing is people are out there, their library might have access to a journal or something, and they need an article from it. They put it out there, add the icon has PDF, and somebody from across the world who might have access to that journal will likely send them PDF. I can attest to this. I put out a query back in the spring. I needed a paper I couldn't have access to. My university didn't have access to the journal. I put it out with the reference, and the icon has PDF. Less than 20 minutes later, I had the PDF in my email inbox, courtesy of an evolutionary biology grad student from New Zealand. So, no library acts that fast. We know that. It takes a long time to order things in by paper, and then you have to scan it in OCR. But anyways, in 20 minutes, I had my article, and I was away to the races. Of course, you should all be following Entomology 2011, which is the hashtag for this conference, and there's been a whole lot of great things going on it already. I've been monitoring and adding to it, and it's great. It means I can sit in on multiple rooms at the same time and see what all is going on. Of course, you can use anything you want. I put a query or asked people what they usually followed. Somebody followed discussions of biomimicry. Anybody talking about biomimicry, they followed that. So if you've got a research interest, you can probably find somebody else talking about it simply this way. And of course, with networking, you never know what's going to turn up. So I follow the fly curator at the British Museum in London. And this summer, I knew my advisor was over in Europe doing a type tour, but I didn't realize that he was stopping in then. But next thing I know is the curator at the British Museum says, oh, I'm hanging out with Jeff Skevington, my advisor. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Say hi for me. So you never know when things are going to turn up, and you keep track of your advisors or your students potentially by this way. You just got to remember that because it's the internet, everything can be read by anybody, so be nice. All right? And also, everything's getting documented and put into the Library of Congress. So all those Twitter tweets are going into the Library of Congress. So you don't want him coming back 10 years later saying, oh, you didn't think I was a very good advisor? Tough luck when you go for your funding. So finally, the big one that I'm quite passionate about and that I like to do a lot is blogging. So there's a lot of blogs out there, and they generally have a pretty bad reputation of geeky people sitting in their parents' basement in their pajamas just railing on about things and spreading misinformation. And nothing could be further from the truth. Does anybody have a blog in here? Okay, a little smaller number, but that's great. I'm going to have to get the addresses for those. So blogging has a lot of potential. You can learn you can practice your writing. I know a lot of grad students generally have trouble. They don't have a lot of experience writing, so why not have an open sandbox where you can try new ideas? That's exactly what I did. I taught myself how to use one of the programs that I eventually needed every day for my master's, using a phylogenetics program, whereas I just did a phylogeny of various bug blogs and figuring out how they may be related to one another, just based on some random characters that I came up with on my own. So that's where I taught myself the program, doing something absolutely not related, not publishable, but it was kind of cool, and it came out with a big phylogeny of bug blogs. The other thing is you can contact and reach people from all over the world. So I've been blogging for about 2 years now, and if you can see it, I've reached pretty much almost every country across the world. I've had visitors from almost all those countries. Still haven't seen Cuba or North Korea show up, so I don't know what their problem is. But anyways, it's still great to know that I'm contacting, and people are at least interested in reading my work from this varied outreach. And of course, you can also promote yourself and promote entomology in other ways. So you can blog about your research, you can blog about other research in your field that you think is interesting, and you can use this as a way to outreach. So you can explain things a little more easily than people just reading the papers themselves. And this paper here that I published is open access, so anybody could go read it, but are they going to? Not likely, because it's kind of specific. But I can share it with them, I can give them the points that are important. And I consider this a correlation to teaching, so it's a good way to practice teaching if you're looking at an academic job in the future, where you're translating complex ideas into something a little more understandable. And of course, if you're worried about people not reading your stuff, don't forget Google, it finds everything. So you put it out there, somebody will eventually stumble across it in some ways that you may never expect. So you'll get found. You don't need to put a whole lot of time into it. So with that, just like to encourage everybody to maybe consider blogging, starting your own. It's easy and free, or you can even submit posts perhaps to a lot of the established bloggers who are always looking for content, the same as any newsletter. So I'd just like to thank Mary Ann and the rest of the people who set this up for inviting me, as well as all the people online that read my stuff and interact, and all of my friends at the University of Guelph Insect Systematics Lab who have kind of kept me going and made sure that I blog regularly. So anyways, hope to see you online. Thanks.